I wasn't planning on doing any vlogs this weekend on account that I'm under the weather, but on the more important account that Stan Lee has left us, presumably for another universe. It seems like a good time to. In the recent month or two, I've applied for different positions related to Marvel. For example, like a hosting position, um, where I talk Marvel comics and stories with kids. And as part of the criteria for applying for this, I've had to talk to people or do videos much like this explaining my relationship with Marvel. And since I had been doing it in private, I feel like doing it in public now. I came to feel also that I had more to say on the matter than social media is suited for. And since you find viewers ask for vlogs, well, here we go. I didn't really have the privilege of being a part of the world of comic books when I was little. I I finally remembered a couple weeks ago that there was a comic book store somewhere in my hometown. I don't know the name of it. I don't know where it is, but I remember going there once and getting a Wizard comic book magazine. It wasn't a comic book. It was a magazine about comic books. And you know what? It just occurred to me, I might actually have it. I got that because this was the only time in my life in my hometown where I would step foot into a comic shop. I had never been to one before. I most likely was never going to be to one again. So rather than buy a comic book and have to choose between all of the incredible stories and characters, I got a magazine about them so that I could try to get as many characters and comic books as I could. Oh my god, and here it is. Wow. I haven't looked at this in a while. I remember thinking this was so weird, but I loved the artwork, and now I've been watching videos of Alex Ross's technique on YouTube. Wow. How stuff comes together. Anyway, this is definitely falling apart, but I read through this over and over because I wanted to get familiar with as many characters as I possibly could. And this is where they first talked about there being an X-Men movie, and they did their own casting. And that's, oh man, I remember trying to compete in this, redesigning Iron Man's armor. Had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about the character, but I wanted to be involved in comics more. And this magazine was all I had, but it had a means in which to get me more involved. That was about as far into the world of comics as I got. And I remember through that contest incorporating this book here, because this is what got my love started. I was really into art when I was a kid, drawing and sketching. I would take pen and paper with me everywhere. And this book like changed my focus and it made me a better artist. This is how I really got familiar with the love of comic books and the appreciating the art that went into it. You know, they talked about what comic book artists needed in order to tell these stories and the techniques they did to create such dynamic figures, and how I could do that too. I used these models, like I pretty much just copied and pasted them, just because I would redraw them over and over and try to get things just right. And when I went to do art in school, I took this as my main resource. I learned about composition, not just for illustration, but for photography. I learned about storytelling and dynamics. I remember when my art class got involved in perspective, and we were learning how to do 1 point and 2 point perspective, and I was a knack at it because I knew how to do people in perspective, and we never ever covered that. There's even some characters that I became familiar with because of this art book. Like I learned who Nova was because of this image right here. I was like, well, who's that? I need to find out. I'm almost not certain which came first, the love of superheroes or the love of drawing, because this book is how I developed character design and illustration so that I could be an animator, because I wanted to tell those kinds of stories that my cartoons were telling. But then movies got caught up and being able to tell these action-packed sagas, and I got into acting, so now I wanted to be an actor because I wanted to be the superhero. And that started because of Stan Lee. And I'm not even sure I realized that before. I don't think I realized how much an impact he had on my life. So I didn't get to purchase and read comic books and follow along the characters and stories issue after issue. I watched the cartoons episode after episode, and I tried to replicate what they do, and I tried to understand them better, and I definitely have comic books now, but it was the televised programming that got me into this world and helped me appreciate everything that it's led up to. And that started because Stan Lee popped into, I think it was the first episode of the Fantastic Four, to help me, the viewer, understand what the Skrull were saying, so that I could follow along with the Richards family and their adventures, and understood how they're going to save the world from this invading alien race of shapeshifters. It was him. It was his personality. And it's been a through line of everything Marvel has done. He made the cameos in the cartoons, talking to me, the viewer, personally inviting me to be a part of this story. His forward in this book and his personality shines through on the pages and made it feel like, I can do what he does. In the movies, he pops in and out, and he's that friend that we know who is a consistent through line in everything Marvel does. He is the Marvel Universe. He's part of the Marvel Universe. And I think that is why he feels so timeless. It's weird to think that the Marvel Universe is going to have to continue and endure without him, especially because it kind of has, at least in the comics, for years now. They've been fine without his leadership and guidance, but he's always been there. Spider-Man to me was kind of like the glue that held the animated cinematic universe all together. It was the show that kind of launched all that, and he made appearances on the X-Men, and he was kind of the thing that kept all that as one thing. And then Iron Man clearly is the central figure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, keeping all of these movies together. But really, it's Stan. Stan kept it together. Stan's the guy who's been in every single Marvel movie. Stan's the guy who's been part of every Marvel book. I've also been reading through Marvel's history as a company and a comics publisher year by year. And I'm really getting to know a lot of names, not just characters, but the people behind the scenes who created the comics, who wrote little soapbox pieces and editorial bulletins. And a lot of names are important. A lot of people are important in creating the legacy that Marvel has, and that Stan, is gigantic as he is also standing on the shoulders of these other giants. But it's Stan's name was in the very beginning, and it keeps popping up, and he's been around. He's been a part of this since the 1930s. And he's still going to be. He's still going to be around. He's still going to be a part of it. It's just, I guess we just won't get to see it as much. he's back working behind the scenes as a creator, as an inspiration, as a guide. And as a figure who will get people, little kids like me, into the world of comics, whether through the magazines, through the cartoons, through the movies. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to say something because as time goes on, I still get further and further into the Marvel Universe in some facet or another. And I love what I've discovered there. I love the conversations and the fun I've had with friends because of the Marvel Universe. And that comic book shop was a little intimidating. There was just so much going on, so much I didn't understand, and not enough time or resources to get familiar with it. But Stan Lee popped in and was like, hey viewer, you probably don't know what the scroller's saying. It's very confusing. I'm here to translate it for you, and I'll be your guide if you have any questions. I'll be here. I'm paraphrasing, but that's how it felt. So if it wasn't for him offering that guiding hand, I may not be the nerd that I am today. Thanks, Stan.